on, y'all? This is Jay. You're watching Real Clear English. Now, we got a request from Nucci on YouTube. She wanted to learn a little bit about possessives, but specifically, how do we write possessives that end with S? Where do we put the apostrophe when it's a plural noun? Where do we put the apostrophe in the extra S? Those kinds of little things in writing. So we're going to look at two things. First is, how do we write those with the possessive in the S? And then second, how do we say them? Because our pronunciation is a little different for those things. So let's go take a look.
The first one is very simple. We should understand this. We have a noun, singular noun like the cat, and then we add the possessive with an apostrophe S, the cat's food, for example. Next we have another basic noun, my friend, and the possessive would be my friend's house. Apostrophe after the noun, S, apostrophe S, very basic. But now something weird happens, and don't blame the Americans. The British started English, and they're the ones who kind of messed it up too. We have the singular noun boss, and when we write it, we write apostrophe S after boss, and that's normal. But when we speak it, we say bosses, which is a little weird. So we have my boss, but then the possessive is my boss's office. So we add an extra syllable with the apostrophe S to make it bosses. Here is another example of the extra syllable added when our noun ends in S. So we have the famous American basketball player LeBron James, and when we put the apostrophe S, we have LeBron James's team. Again, we add an extra syllable, LeBron James's team. And then one final example using the famous American actor Tom Cruise. I use the example of Tom Cruise's hair. I guess I say that because I'm a little jealous because he has good hair and I don't really have hair. So Tom Cruise's hair. Tom Cruise is the regular singular noun, but we have the possessive form when we speak, and it's Tom Cruise's hair. So we just put the apostrophe S in the normal spot, and that's it. And now we're on to the plural possessives, which are similar to the singular possessives. We simply put an apostrophe S in most positions. So for example, here we have women, and the possessive form is women's. That's women with an apostrophe S. Very simple. But with our next example, we will see where Nucci's question really comes from. We have a plural noun, the students, and where do we put the apostrophe here? Do we put an apostrophe S after the students? Do we put just an apostrophe? How do we say it? And here's the answer. We have the students, but then after the students, after the S in students, we just put an apostrophe. That makes it possessive, and we don't add an extra syllable or anything like that. So we don't say the students' homework. No, we simply say the students' homework. So we just put the apostrophe after the S in students, and that's our plural form. The next example is of the Obamas, a family here in the United States, and they do have quite a big house, and we would call that the Obama's house. We just put the apostrophe after the S and say Obama's. It makes it possessive. We don't say the Obamas' house, simply the Obama's house. And here's a little area of the possessives that's kind of strange. Think of two guys, Tom and Mike, and they're playing in a basketball game together. That means there's one game and they're both playing in it. And we would just say Tom and Mike's basketball game. That means they have a game together. But a little different from that would be if Tom and Mike both are playing in separate basketball games, how would we say that and how would we write that? Well, we would say Tom's and Mike's basketball games. Now, the games is also plural, but we're saying that Tom has a game and Mike has a game. So we say Tom's and Mike's basketball games, and that means they both have separate games that they're playing in.
And that's it. That's how we do possessives in English when we're writing. Thank you, Nucci, for giving us our first comment. We got our first video. See you next time. We got prepositions, phrasal verbs coming up next.